Y'all, it was crazy as all get out on Capitol Hill today as Attorney General Pam Bondi finally showed up to testify before the House Oversight Committee. And man, things got hot and heavy, especially between her and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Watch.
Answer, right or wrong, raping children?
Wrong.
Right or wrong, killing random citizens?
Definitely wrong.
Right or wrong, enriching yourself as the sitting president of the United States?
Definitely wrong.
Okay, thank you, because I probably never would have got that with our witness. Our witness who somehow is a lawyer but does not understand how it works with witnesses. I'm not really sure what law school she went to and what all kind of cases she tried, but typically when you come into a space and somebody's a witness, then they sit there and they answer questions instead of asking questions. And then we also have this objection that we use as lawyers called non-responsive when a witness fails to actually answer the question. But nevertheless, let me address the survivors, because that's exactly who they are. They are not victims, they are survivors. Let me say thank you for having more courage and moral clarity in your pinky fingers than the entire Department of Justice. We are currently the laughing stock of the world, partially because of the failed leadership within the DOJ, as we see kings and queens falling everywhere around the world. But we don't know the basics of right and wrong in this country, because it's not about partisanship. And that's why I applaud Thomas Massie, because he's the only person on the Republican side that has a backbone and knows how to stand up to corruption. But nevertheless, let me keep going. My Democratic colleagues have been attacked this entire committee hearing. They have been lied on, and frankly, the American people weren't looking for that. They were looking for answers about the corruption that they see coming from this administration. In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away, and at your direction, DOJ has arrested Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. And I might add that y'all actually had a judge that rejected y'all for trying to arrest Don Lemon before, just like the grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Kelly, just like a grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Slotkin, just like the case against Tish James was dismissed and the case against Mr. Comey was dismissed. I completely don't get how it is that you're sitting at the top of DOJ, because you don't seem to be good at your job. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting these journalists. In fact, we know after Georgia Fort and Don Lemon were arrested, we know that there were homes of journalists that were raided. We know that threatened prosecution against students protesting your actions and forced tech companies to remove apps used to track ISIS activities. But let's circle back to you protecting pedophiles and creeps, because I want to talk about the president and his possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter. So let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, this is a good one. Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up, and this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit. But there are numerous others, like how the DOJ is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of the rogue agents who have murdered American citizens, or how the DOJ seized voter data from Fulton County in an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections, or how federal agents have Tom Homan on tape accepting a bribe and your agency killed the investigation, or how your agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday, which is unconstitutional. The Constitution is clear. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history, an attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Now, folks, Congressman Joe Nagase challenged Bondi on the issue of her Department of Justice hiring one of the January 6th white domestic terrorists. Watch.
Quote, "If you come for law enforcement, the Trump administration will come for you," end quote. I want to show you just a brief video. It's about 30 seconds, and I'll ask you a couple questions about it.
You guys are disgusting. I'm former law enforcement. You're disgusting. You are the Nazi. You are the Gestapo. You can't see it because you're chasing your pension, right? Your pension, your retirement, right? That's what runs your life, your retirement. The sad thing is they're not even going to get their pension because it's going to be worthless. And shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Attorney General Bondi, that man works for you now, right?
Who was that, Congressman?
The man in that video, the one who was in the police-worn body cam footage, the one allegedly yelling, "Kill him," at police officers on January 6th, his name is Jared Wise.
He does work for us.
He works for you at the Department of Justice.
He does.
This is an individual whom a federal grand jury indicted for 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors related to his participation in the attack on January 6th. One of those charges was forcibly assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, and interfering with police with the intent to commit another felony. This is who you choose as the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America to hire at the Department of Justice. Someone on video yelling, "Kill him," at police officers? Right?
I believe he was pardoned by President Trump.
Oh, he was pardoned. You're right. You're right. Pardoned by President Trump for his offense. Pardoned for yelling, "Kill him," at police officers. And yet you expect hardworking police officers across the country to believe that you take law enforcement seriously. You could imagine the reaction of so many folks across the country hearing the chief law enforcement officer of the United States refuse to even condemn what that individual whom you've now hired did. But in any event, let's talk a little bit about some of the other divisions within the Department of Justice and what's happened over the last year. You're familiar with the public integrity section of the DOJ's criminal division. I think it's referred to as PIN. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know which presidential administration under which the PIN was first created?
I can tell you what administration that the weaponization was ended under.
I'll reclaim my time. This wasn't a trick question.
You don't get to
Madam Attorney
reclaim
General.
your time.
Madam Attorney General.
Because I don't like it.
Mr. Chairman, will you explain to the witness that he does reclaim his time?
Because I don't answer a question to your satisfaction.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Attorney General, the time belongs to the gentleman from Colorado.
The president under which PIN was created was Gerald Ford. It was created after Watergate. I'm not asking a question, Madam Attorney General. The administration under which it was created was Gerald Ford. When you first started as the Attorney General of the United States, there were 35 people working in that office. There are now 2 people working in that office because you have gutted it. How many people work for the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team in the criminal division today?
Can I answer the question about PIN?
I've asked you a question. How many
You've
people
asked
work?
me a question, but you don't
How
want
many
the
people
answer.
work
I'm not
for the
gonna answer your
National
questions the way you
Cryptocurrency
want.
Enforcement Team? You won't answer how many
I'll
people?
answer PIN.
You.
PIN will not be
you know what?
weaponized.
You know what?
What's
Madam
funny
Attorney
about
General,
this?
I'll say to the chairman.
What's funny about
Chairman,
this?
you know what the answer is? And I think I understand
funny
why the
about
Attorney General
this?
does not want to answer the question, because you eliminated the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team last year. So I understand why you don't want to tell the American people who works there.
Yeah, I
no one
understand
works
why
there
you don't want to
anymore,
talk about
Madam
Mohammed
Attorney
Solomon
General.
in
So,
your district.
in any event,
who murdered people.
Mr. Chairman, will you stop the clock so his time is not wasted by
I've
the
been
witness?
very generous with allowing extra time when we have these little disputes.
I understand.
You got the time, Mr. Goose.
I might as well ask the chairman these questions.
I'd be happy
because
to answer
what
some
is
of your
fun-
questions.
What's profound, the questions I've
Profound?
asked,
The crime in your
I've
district.
asked, Mr. Chairman, are not trick questions. They're not gotcha questions. They're actually basic questions about how the Department of Justice functions. And the unwillingness of this Attorney General to answer them in good faith. When a member of Congress asks how many people work at the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team and the Attorney General refuses to answer it, it is not a coincidence. It's because she eliminated the team. Why? Because her boss, the President of the United States, is making money hand over fist, $1.4 billion over the course of the last year through cryptocurrency holdings. I think what is happening at the Department of Justice is a disgrace, Mr. Chairman, and I would urge you to gain control of this hearing. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Yeah. I would ask the gentleman, does he agree with the standing up of the Deputy Attorney General for dealing with fraud? That's something that's happened in this administration. First time. You talked about Penn. That happened with this Justice Department.
We're talking about this committee.
Mr. Chairman, had you answered the question, had the Attorney General answered the question in that way, perhaps this hearing would have some modicum of resembling something that has typically been fairly conventional, an oversight hearing of the Department of Justice.
The gentleman's
That is
time has
not this.
expired.
There were a number of other people who got into it with her. And I'm sure the time I'm going to play those. I may run them tomorrow. Eugene, this is real simple. Pam Bondi had an audience of one, and that is she wanted to show her toughness. Donald Trump probably said, "Great job, great job." That's what it's all about. But this is what happens. These arrogant Trump people, they come there, whether it's her, Peter Hegseth, Kristi Noem, others. They don't want to answer questions. They absolutely don't give a damn about the legislative branch of the government, and they believe they can do whatever the hell they want.
But the thing is this, right? Look, she came in there aggressive. These hearings are always show theater for both sides, to be honest, for being honest about it. But at the end of the day, Congress has oversight authority over the executive branch, especially of congressionally approved, congressionally confirmed members of the executive branch. And she has a responsibility to both Congress and to the American people to answer these questions honestly and full-throatedly. And the second she decides that she wants to continue to protect pedophiles and protect the Epstein folk, I think members of Congress should start seriously thinking about impeaching her, as well as I'm waiting to see Democrats really turn up the heat on the Commerce Secretary. The fact that homeboy lied about going to Epstein Island and now the truth has come out. I mean, that'll be easily the ad of the year. You take that with, and I know the clip, you didn't have the clip played where, she was asked to apologize to the Epstein victims and she refused to. They're just literally giving Democrats all the ammunition they need to take what's probably going to be, a huge majority to a full-blown tidal wave next November. When is November coming up?
Andrew, bottom line is here. They don't want to answer the questions. They don't want to be challenged on any of these issues. I mean, that's just the case because they want to sit here and go back and forth, and they want to argue, and they want to please Trump because his whole deal is deny, 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 and don't give real answers.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, with Pam Bondi coming to Congress, that was supposed to be an open dialogue. She was supposed to answer questions, and she can't even do that properly. So how are we trusting her to govern the United States? It appears that all she's doing is engaging in political prosecutions. We saw that she tried to get indictments against sitting U.S. legislators, and that was rejected. And I commend the people of Washington, D.C. for seeing right through that. And there is that oversight that we have, right? That grand jury process that meets in secret. And it's so easy for these prosecutors typically to get these indictments, but under this administration, it's been difficult. We've seen a lot of failed grand jury prosecutions, and that is because the people are fed up with the types of cases that this administration is bringing. And it's a dangerous, slippery slope when you think about the fact that if the public is losing trust in law enforcement, what that the message that sends to their prosecutors when they're going in court, and judges can't even believe what they're saying. And this is going all the way from the top down. So we're seeing a complete meltdown just in time for the midterm elections.
Cody, these people, they simply are uncouth. They are corrupt, and it is simple as that. It rots from the top all the way down.
I think the word uncouth is probably still playing it down a little bit. I watched a little bit of the live hearing today, and anyone with sense would know that she's obviously covering up for Donald Trump. She spent the entire time deflecting and hurling insults just like she did in those clips that you showed. Why would a serious professional attorney general conduct themselves in this way? Representative Jay Paul asked Bondi to apologize to the Epstein survivors while they were there, to their face, for not redacting their personal information, and she refused to do so. That would have been the perfect opportunity to at least have some accountability, so that when people are continuing to accuse all the Republicans or continuing to say that the entire administration is at fault for the things, their participation in what happened in Epstein Island, they could at least say, well, we're empathetic. We apologize. Like, they could at least have a couple of points if they did that, but they're not even able to do that. And instead, she started to blame her predecessor, Merrick Garland. She even found a moment to talk about the S&P 500 and the Dow and how we should be celebrating the stock market, as if that was the reason for the hearing today. So, I do wonder, and I'll ask you, Roland, what are the consequences going to be if the entire administration is corrupt and they are doing everything to continue to lie and cover up their own criminal acts? Then what are the consequences going to be? I'm just wondering I won't say I'm wondering, but what I'm hoping is that everybody will make sure to show up to the polls in November and vote some of these people out of Congress so that we can get some power back. But legally speaking, I don't think there's going to be any real consequences.
Well, listen, I mean, it's real simple. Democrats do not control the House or the Senate, so they are in the minority. So if they are able to control the House and or the Senate, then they have the power to subpoena, to have even more hearings, to actually do things. And so that's the ability of having the power. But this is administration doesn't give a damn what Congress thinks, and so it's going to be a battle. But Donald Trump already knows that if Democrats get control of the House or the Senate, that any of the crazy legislative things that they want to do, not going to happen. Okay, his agenda completely shuts down for the next 2 years, and that's what it's all about. And so that's one way to stop him. And not only that, if Democrats control the Senate, that means that they can shut down any appointments, whether Supreme Court or anything else, if they actually have the guts to do it. So that's the difference between who wins and who loses in November.